floor plans, it's something that I don't know. I wouldn't think most couples would even think about it. I wouldn't. I mean, you're a planner, but
I
so
think a
you
lot of
probably
people
did. But
I think a lot of people don't think about it.
yeah,
Because they don't necessarily. I think it's one of those things that you just kind of like assume gets done. But that's not always the case. If you're getting married at like a full service venue in the sense of like a hotel or something like that, they'll probably have some standard stuff that you could use. A lot of places have like standard things that have been done there before, but it makes a big difference in the flow of your event and the style of your event, and like actually in like the design of your event.
yeah.
So it's actually one of my favorite things. It's probably one of my favorite things to do for clients because it makes such a big impact.
Yeah, and also like you love design, and that's just fun for you.
I do.
So before we get into some of the things that we want to touch on, so venue is usually one of the very first, if not the first, vendor categories that you go to book.
True.
You're usually at this stage, you're not quite as ramped up as you would like to be and as you will be in
True.
terms of like your education of how to plan a wedding.
Right.
When you walk into a venue, I mean, how should couples be thinking about that? Because if the venue tells you, oh yeah, we can get 125 guests in here with standing banquet tables, but seriously though, like every wedding's different and table size is different. And if you're not communicating that you want, a farm table or king's table or all those different things, how would you recommend couples going in at the very, very beginning, kind of think about this?
If you don't have a planner, so obviously if you have a planner, that's a great resource.
Sure, of course.
But if you don't have a planner, I would think if you have specific ideas of how you want your floor plan to lay out, to ask the venue maybe for some sample floor plans is a good starting point.
Yeah.
Especially if like you really want a king's table or you really want all rectangle tables or whatever it is. I would also find out what kind of tables they have that like I would ask them for floor plans with whatever equipment they have on site. Not saying that like you can't bring in other equipment. Obviously you can, like other tables. Most places have rounds, 5 foot rounds, 5 or 6 foot rounds. So if you like love square tables, then it's good to know up front, like that's going to be an additional cost. So I would ask for those sample floor plans of like what they have on site or what they've seen work really well, and use the venue as a resource because they work there every weekend. So they do know best.
Do venues normally kind of offer that up? And that's just my lack of knowledge in that.
No, not really.
Okay.
Yeah, it's something you would probably have to ask for. Now, not all venues do the floor plan, so not all of them are going to have something like that either. So it just kind of depends on the type of venue that you're booking.
Or just hire a planner.
Or just hire a planner and they'll do it for you too.
That you found on Bustle.
That you found on Bustle.
Yeah.
Shameless plug.
Oh,
we've been married too long.
Oh, man. We did just celebrate 8 wonderful years.
We did.
Yeah. Once you get past 8, it's just you just say the same words all the time. And
that's right. Something to look forward to.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So getting back on, okay, where to get started besides my random musings. Where do I,
what would this show be without your random musings though? It's a great question, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So back to the real show.
Yeah. So where do I get a diagram from? I guess you kind of already touched on that a little bit, right? You're going to get it from the venue.
Yeah. So typically the venue may have a diagram. Your caterer might have a diagram if they work there frequently or they're the exclusive caterer there. They may have the diagram. Or if it's a new venue or they don't have a diagram.
Traditional.
Yeah, it's not traditional. Then you may have to go out and physically create that floor plan yourself or with the help of a planner.
I have definitely driven you places where you went in with a tape measure.
Yeah.
To frame to come up with a diagram for the layout.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot of work. So I would
Okay.
think about maybe hiring a professional for that.
Okay. So then so you have the diagram.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to draft it up?
So again, it kind of depends. Your venue may do it for you. Caterer may do it for you. Planner, if you have it, will definitely do it for you. Otherwise, you may have to do it for yourself. That's the other option.
What if you only have a day of or month of coordinator?
It depends. Sometimes that's included in the package. Sometimes it's not. So I'd make sure to ask about that.
But not always.
Not always. So I'd make sure to ask. And then I would also, ask them if they've worked there before, who's typically done the like you're probably hiring them far enough in advance that you haven't even started thinking about the floor plan.
Right.
So I would ask them, who's done the floor plan in the past at this venue? Is it typically you? Is it typically the caterer? And a lot of times they can tell you like, okay, you're going to need me to do the floor plan here unless you want to do it yourself. So that's included in the package or that's extra or whatever it is.
Right. Okay. How do you start?
I would start by visiting the venue. So obviously you visited the venue in the beginning and you loved it and you fell in love and you booked it and all those good things. It might have been 4 to 6 months since you've been inside that venue.
You probably saw 5 different venues or
yeah.
whatever it is. Yeah.
So you might need just like a little refresher. I'm sure it's, and you're looking at it from a different perspective, right? Like when you looked at it when you first walked in, it was like the feel and how you imagine the flow. And now you're looking at it in a way more tactical perspective.
Yeah.
So I would start with visiting the venue. Walk through, just talk about with your planner or the venue coordinator or the caterer or whoever's doing the floor plan, yourself, mom, whoever it is.
Yeah.
And just kind of think about the flow of like where you want tables, think about like where intro is going to happen through. Like, so we need to make sure to leave room there for introductions to happen, where the station's going or the buffet, cake table, all of the like little things that go into it, dance floor, stuff like that.
So, which leads to the next question is, what sort of like information do you need to know when you are starting to build this out?
Your guest count. So go back and listen to our guest list podcast. I would overestimate here too. If you think you're going to have 150 to 175 people, go ahead and build the floor plan for 175. Then you can always reduce the number of tables later. It's way easier to reduce the number of tables than add tables. So approximate guest count, you need to know if you're going to have a band or a DJ. Band's going to take up way more room than a DJ is. And then I would have an idea of any kind of additional tables just so you can at least lay those out. So if you're going to have a cake table, a dessert table, if you're going to have escort cards, gifts, guest book, those are kind of some of the standard family table, stuff like that.
Sure.
You don't have to have those on your initial floor plan, but it is nice. That way, when you're estimating the number of linens and flowers and other things, you have a good idea of what you need initially. It's always good to kind of see big picture what you're looking to spend and save money later instead of the reverse.
Yeah. No, you don't want to end up with standing tables.
You don't want to end up with standing tables, believe me.
Okay. So speaking of, and we kind of touched on this a little bit, but obviously we talked about 5 foot, 6 foot rounds, but
standing tables,
obviously. What seating options are there available to couples that maybe they haven't thought about before? Or just in general, but then also the things they haven't thought about.
Yeah. So you have your traditional rounds. That's probably your most standard guest seating. For your, for the two of you, you have a couple of options. So you have a sweetheart table, which is just the two of you sitting at that table. It's traditionally a 3 or 4 foot round. Mm-hmm. You have a king's table, which is generally a rectangle table.
I personally love those, and we didn't do that. And
me too.
I've seen those a lot.
It's my favorite, actually.
Those are amazing, and that's so good for the wedding party who have their plus ones, because they get to actually have dinner with their plus ones.
Exactly. So essentially what a king's table is seating on both sides. And you have everyone. So wedding party plus ones. Typically the kiddos, if they have kiddos, aren't included at that. Sometimes they are though, and that kind of works too.
Right.
So you have seating on all sides. So it's not just a single sided. And then you have your traditional head table, which is just, the two of you and wedding party seated on one side. That one's probably way less popular these days. We hardly ever have people do that. Probably like 1%. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a lot smaller. 5% maybe.
Yeah.
Not to say there's anything wrong with that. It's just less popular these days than head tables.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I think what other tables did for guest tables, I forgot other two options for guests.
Yeah.
Rectangle, so traditional banquet tables is another option. Square tables are cool. Family style tables where they're like really, multiple rectangles combined together. That's really cool for like a more intimate family style event.
Yeah. Okay. So